one simple sentence. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work to make it in this industry. If you're not willing to put in the work, possibly think about something else.
Welcome back, Chart Addicts, to the Expert Trader Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Cam Hawkins in the house. Cam, do you want to introduce yourself to the traders at home?
Yeah, sure. Look, well, thanks for letting me come on the show. So I'm a podcaster from New Zealand. I've got my own trading podcast. It's called Trading Nut. There's a YouTube channel on the back of that. So I've been doing this for maybe 5 years and interviewed well over 200 traders from all sorts of walks of life and trading stocks, options, futures, crypto. Forex is probably where I spend most of the time now with Forex traders, but I'm an open book, and we interview them, find out how they tick, and myself as in terms of a trader, I'm sort of at the break-even mark at the moment, and I'm one of these struggling traders that is still trying to make it and getting better every day.
Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate that honesty. Cam was being a little bit humble when he explained that. Cam has one of the most popular Forex podcasts today. I highly recommend you guys check it out. We're going to put a link below. It is called Trading Nut. Now, Cam, how long? You said you've been doing this podcasting for around 5 years. What got you into podcasting, and what made you want to start a podcast about Forex or about trading in general?
Look, I suppose I was driving to work and I was listening to I started listening to podcasts, and there was one podcast that was interviewing guys literally every day. It was called Entrepreneur on Fire, and at that point I'd run a couple of websites and stuff, and I'd actually given up the whole sort of the whole gambit of doing any sort of online stuff, and then listening to this podcast, I thought, what if I just interviewed traders? Wonder if that would be a thing. And so I'm pretty quick at turning these things around, and I made the decision. And then maybe 3 weeks later, I interviewed the first guy, thinking it was going to be impossible to get people on. And for me, being in New Zealand with the time difference and all this sort of stuff, there were so many roadblocks. And now I sort of look back and think, man, that was so easy. What was I thinking? That there was no real roadblocks. It was all in my mind. And yes, I got the first episode done, and I think I did the first 3. And I was sneaking off. Well, I wasn't sneaking off. I was turning up to work maybe 2 hours late because I was interviewing people in the States, and doing the day's work, and then possibly getting a few people in the UK in the evening as well. So I managed to get it started then, and I think that was the sort of genesis of my first podcast, which was a 52 Traders podcast. And there was maybe 2 or 3 other guys that also started up about the same time, which is really crazy. So literally we're all a month apart. So,
Wow.
So that's how I got into it.
That's really interesting. Who were the first couple of guests that you had on? So how did that start? I love the entrepreneurial story that you said, how you got really inspired. You went out, you thought you could step into this niche. So who were the first couple of people, and how'd you go about getting those?
The first interview, and I actually listened to it the other day because I was like, this has got to be cringeworthy. It was it was a guy called Ray, and I'll just have a look on I can't remember his last name here. Raymond Burchett, and he was a futures trader who had this sort of approach, which was very much like, hey, it was intuitive. That's what it was intuitive trading. And so I interviewed him. Then after that, I had a guy on who did options trading, who was like a martial artist. And after that, it was a stock trader called Serge Berger. And it started getting more interesting. And I think by episode like 8, I was even hooked. I was having some amazing conversations with amazing guests way back when I first started. And I thought, man, I've hit the gold mine here. And I think episode 14 was probably my favorite out of the lot of them, because this guy from Singapore called He Shu Han was come out with some crazy terminology I'd never heard, approach to the market I'd never heard, and I was just like, I was hooked. I'm like, right, I'm going to study this stuff now. This stuff makes sense to me. And at that point, I was a Forex trader, so anything sort of Forex related, I was more inclined to look at as opposed to futures or stocks.
Okay, all right, Cam. Don't want to harp on this too long, but can you talk to me a little bit about this intuitive trading? What does that really entail? I'm kind of interested.
Look, I mean, this was 5 years ago, so I need to think back to it. But it was almost like it was more of a mindset thing, right? So the actual strategy and stuff, I think probably was your strategy, but it was more of a mindset thing. So building up a habit and a sort of drilling something into your subconscious to make it intuitive when you actually were in front of the charts. So doing something over and over again, build it into your subconscious so that when you see the setup, you know that this is the setup, as opposed to going, here is my XYZ rule. This needs to happen. It's like, okay, I know what I'm looking for. This is what's happened and I'm going to enter. And ironically, it's still valid in terms of what I've learned across the years, because people that I talk to now, a lot of the sort of common themes are, you need to get to the point where it does become intuitive. There's so much detail that to try and go, okay, has that happened, and tick the box on all the different rules that you've got. There needs to be a bit of intuitive in there, so you know that this has happened, you know you've seen this before, but these are still the rules that I'm sticking to, and then I enter my trade or I exit my trade or whatever it is. So yeah, so that's the intuitive aspect of trading and how it still relates into some of the interviews I'm doing these days.
That's actually a really good segue. I'm glad that you mentioned a lot of the traders that over the years that you've talked to, and a lot of the things that they've told you that were similarities. So aside from that intuitive aspect of having to build something into your subconscious mind so you can intuitively see it in the markets, is there anything else that you've seen across the board from all the traders, the 200 plus traders that you've interviewed over the years? What do you feel like are the similarities between winning traders?
I think there's probably a handful of things that they all do, which I know a lot of retail traders don't want to do, and that's why there's only a few people that that make it in this game in the end. So number one is they back test. So they back test the strategy and they don't skimp on the back testing. It's like they go and sit down and literally will churn through a few hundred trades. It's their hobby. Their hobby is going and back testing the strategy to it's like playing a sport, right? You go out and you practice once, twice a week. If you're a professional, you practice every day, or every sort of, maybe 4 times a week. So this is what the guys who have made it do. They will practice in terms of back testing, until they really become a master, at which point they know they probably don't need to back test, but they might still be trying to look for other opportunities. So it becomes so habitual, such a passion, that they're wanting to, do this every moment they get, every chance they get. They'll go down there onto the charts, get the back testing software up, and go through that agonizing process of going through multiple timeframes on a back tester and making sure they don't trick, they don't cheat themselves, they don't, try and con themselves that I would have taken this trade, or they do it properly. So that's number one. Number two is, look, I've heard it so many times, is the journaling. So these guys turn a corner when they start journaling and seeing what they're doing wrong, and going back and analyzing how they were feeling, why they took that trade, what they may have done, the mistake they may have done, what's working, what's not working. That's a key factor as well. And I think another big one is the routine. So getting into a trading routine, having a habit of, these are the times that I sit in front of the chart. This is my routine for trading. The setup, the preparation, the at the charts, the doing the analysis, and then finishing the session or whatever is and ending. And probably another one is the plan, the trading plan of, this is how much I'm looking to achieve today. One of the best things I heard just recently was like this guy who had a rule of 3. It was basically, you could have, I think he could make it a rule of 5. It doesn't really matter. But he had, he would say, okay, I'm doing 3 trades today. That's all I'm going to do. Allow myself 3 trades. And if he had, I think he could have 2 losers, at which point he'd stop. Perhaps he may have had 3 and he would stop, but I think it was like 2 losers and he stops, because it's not going to be, today's not the day. Right. Or he could have like 2 winners. He could have a 3rd trade, and if that was a loser, great. If it was a winner, even better. But he's still going to be up for the day. Or he could have 1 trade, which was a losing first trade, a winning 2nd trade, and then he could go for his 3rd trade. So it's trying to keep your, it's giving yourself an edge, basically. Other people do it with percentages. I'm only looking to make 5% or 3% on the account, or 10% on the account, then I'm done. where everyone who struggles seems to get caught up is they probably don't have that routine in place, so they get to the charts, go through all the analysis. They'll get to the charts, start analyzing the first pair, jump into a trade because they think, oh, here we go, it's on. I've ignored that rule and this rule, and we're into a trade here. Bang, and then all your analysis goes out the window, and you focus on one pair, and you never get through what you're supposed to be doing. So that's number one. And then the other one is what was I mentioning before? The rule of like 3 or the percentage exits. It's like everything just gets, your mindset gets carried away, and you end up just trading for Africa, and you finish your session, or you haven't even got a session. You're just tired, and you've done 15 trades, and you look back and go, hang on a sec, what happened? It's like I went into a time warp for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was. So yeah, those are the common things that I keep hearing that the guys who are really out there doing it day in and day out are doing, which is different from everyone else. And I suppose the final thing is they've just got a massive passion for this. So they've grown the passion versus trying to make money. They don't care about the money really. The money's great. They want the money, but it's a passion now. Passion about the markets.
Wow. Okay, that last one was great. That was kind of a curveball. I thought you were gonna leave it at those, and then you threw us with the passion. So I actually want to touch on those things, the points that you just made. So the commonalities that just came off the top were backtesting, journaling, having a consistent routine of the session they're going to trade and the times that they're going to trade and get off the charts, having a trading plan, a concise and consistent plan, and having the passion to continuously trade. Now, I actually want to break these down piece by piece. Cam, what do you think are some, just off the top of your head, what are some strategies that you've heard for backtesting that you've heard people employ that you could share with some folks?
Strategies for backtesting. Oh, look, I mean, first thing to do is obviously get some backtesting software, or use the likes of TradingView's real time or sort of backtesting feature they've got. So get some software. Try and, I mean, that's number one. That's probably the biggest thing, and it's not that expensive. I mean, you can get backtesting software for like the MetaTrader platform for $97, and it gives you a bunch of historical data, which has got news included and all that sort of stuff. So that's number one. And look, I mean, here I am trying to sort of preach backtesting, and I'm probably the worst at going through and doing the backtesting.
Sure.
The other thing would just be, don't, if you've got an option to skip back to bars, don't tick that option. so if you make a mistake and go, oh, I'll go back. No. That doesn't happen in real life. So don't tick that option. And I would, thirdly, I'll just, pick a balance that you're going to trade with. If you're not going to put $10,000 in, don't put 10 grand in. Pick a balance that you're going to trade with and make it realistic in terms of your money management. So yeah, 3 tips for your back testing.
All right, that's really good. So get a software, first things first. If you guys heard that, you guys can find one that you like. Just do some research on your own. What about journaling? Any interesting tips that you've heard on the journaling side that you might want to share with some folks at home?
Yes, in fact, there is. Just recently, I had a guy come on, and he said, look, here's how I do my journal. Actually, he didn't explain it on the show, but he said, this is how I do my journaling after the show. He goes, go and watch this video. And he was using Trello. I started doing it, and it worked really well. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Trello before, but basically it was a case of taking a screenshot of your chart, pasting it in a Trello, what are they called? Like a tile or whatever. And then labeling it red, green, I suppose, or I don't think you mentioned this, but orange or something like that, or yellow. So you can quickly see, and sort of having a broken down by week. So you've got a week in one column, and you can see all your trades for that week in that column, and whether or not it's red, green, or yellow, winning, losing, or break even. And then you can make a note about the trade in that little visual, so you can see the chart, what the trade was. You can see if it was a winner quickly, and then you can go through and have a look at what you were thinking. You can make a note like, this was a great trade. I matched all of my rules, or I broke this rule, or I exited too early, or I was stressing about money, or whatever it was. So that's probably the best tip I've heard about for journaling, from quite an interactive thing. You get to see the chart, blah blah blah. The other one is from a guy called Nick Shawn, who's been on the show. He actually showed his journal on one of the videos we did, where we had him battling a 15-year-old kid who has been on the show and is an exceptional trader, and they were sort of going through, and we did this sort of hour-long webinar in that, and Nick was showing his journal because he was going through picking out trade examples, and what he was doing, he just had it in like an Excel or a Google sheet or something, and each line was a trade, and I can't remember the detail of it, but one of the key things was he'd obviously signed up to TradingView, and he'd click on the TradingView link, and that would take him to the chart that he'd saved at that time in TradingView. So he didn't need to, so he could do all his markups there and just grab the link, chuck it in the journal, and bang, you've got that sort of historical record of your trades and what happened.
Wow. Is that available in one of the podcasts that you did?
It's actually a video. It's not on the podcast. It's on the YouTube channel. Have a look for the 15-year-old trader video, battles as mentor, and although he wasn't his mentor, he recommended to go and check out this guy's channel because it was because he learned a lot from it himself.
Okay, if you guys want to go watch that video, 15-year-old battles his mentor on YouTube. make sure you guys go check that out. Cam, any interesting tips about routines that you've heard in your time in interviewing all these traders?
I suppose the thing that springs to mind is guys that they'll do exercise beforehand, release a lot of that sort of emotion, relaxes the body. The other one is meditation. So people, meditating before they start their trading session, or doing some sort of yoga. I suppose the thing is, if you can get your body, it seems like if you can get your body and mind in the right state beforehand, then that's what you need to do to become, to get in tune with the market, and to be able to manage the emotions that are going to come with trading. I suppose those are the main things, really. It's just getting your body moving, doing some exercise beforehand, and then trying to settle the mind as well.
And is all that just the objective of being able to handle the conflicting information and some of the emotions that come with trading? Is that really the objective that they're trying to do to prime themselves?
Yeah, I think it's a case of trying to get their mind in a place where it's relaxed. It's not being bombarded with other things, so it can focus. Another thing that I've heard is, which is a massive tip for anyone out there, but there are apps out there. There are things you can download, which you can listen to as well if you're really sort of trying to calm your mind. So there's binaural beats is something that you could put in. It basically retunes your mind and can make you either calm, focused. If you want to be creative, it can make you creative. Probably not that. That's probably not the one you want to pick if you're trading. But if you want to be focused and you want to be alert, and you want to just be calm, put that on for the 5-10 minutes, 20 minutes beforehand. Or what I found is I listened to an ancient Indian mantra sort of chant when I've been trading. I've done that maybe 5 or 6 times. And the irony is, every time I do it, I'm such a better trader. And I'll just have it playing over and over again. And it's a song that goes for about 8 minutes. And my wife, she studies yoga, or she's a yoga teacher. And part of that, she put the song, and I was like, oh, that's quite a sort of, it's got a good rhythm to it. And I started listening to it, and for whatever reason, it just gets my mind sort of relaxed and calm and in the right state.
Cam, I want you to go ahead and send that song to me after this podcast is done.
I will. Look, I'll try and pronounce it, but I would struggle.
Let's avoid that, just to avoid butchering that name.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Cam, you've talked to hundreds of traders. I'm kind of curious at this point. What have you learned from these successful traders to be true about markets, and what have you learned to be true about trading? So, in other words, is there a right way to trade? Is there one way to trade? Is there one way to succeed in the markets?
Look, I hear so much conflicting information, right? I think with that in mind, there is probably, yeah, the answer to your question is there is no one way to trade the markets, right? So I've seen so many different approaches and approaches that work. And the irony is every approach seems to work. So it's almost a case of going, well, if every approach can work, then I need to, well, there's a couple of things. Either you can ignore a whole bunch of them, but don't ignore the ones that the successful guys are doing, because they're making money from those. So therefore, if you can try and mirror what they're doing, then you're obviously going to have a better chance of being successful. So yeah, look, I mean, sorry, what was the first part of the question? I'll see if I can answer that.
The first part is, what have you learned from these traders over the years that you've been interviewing them to be true about the markets?
Yeah, so the other topics that has come up has been around market manipulation. And I mean, I had an interview with a guy called Ifimianti when I first started the Trading Nut podcast, and it was the craziest interview I've ever done. Right? It was literally, I didn't say one word, and he went on for about, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes. And the whole thing was about conspiracy theory. The markets were being run by the Illuminati type, the Rothschilds or whoever it was. He called them the Empire, and then he walked through this sort of behemoth trade that he took, where it was a 280% trade from a risk to reward point of view. But so yeah, the manipulation debate is out there. There's a bunch of people that say, nah, it's not manipulated. It's just people, and especially here in Forex, seeking liquidity. But then I'm like, every second day I'll come across somebody who says, it is manipulated to a certain degree. And I would lie on the side of, I think it is manipulated to a certain point, whereby the bigger guys, they want to get the best prices, and so they will construct. They will decide when the price is going to move to the next level. So you need to just be aware of that, and they're not trying to, I suppose, con you out of your money or anything like that. They're just trying to get the best prices. So there's a liquidity point of view there as well. So, they're trying to find liquidity. They're trying to seek that liquidity. Hence, they're trying to get the best prices. Hence, it looks like the market's manipulated, which to a point they probably are manipulating it so they can get better prices.
All right, I see. I definitely see that. There's definitely a lot of people on those arguments. We've talked to Ted as well. Ted is a good person to sort of reference when it talks to the back end of how the markets work. So, Cam, tell me. I want to switch this. I want to switch this on a lighter note. Tell me one of your funniest or one of your best podcast stories. What's been one of the most memorable podcast stories? I know you just mentioned the 15-year-old battles his mentor. It's kind of hard to top that one. What's something that really stood out to you in your podcast series?
I mean, I think the thing that cracked me up the most was the thing that cracks me up the most are people who explain how they got over their money issues, their connection with money. So they had an emotional connection with money, and they wanted to get out of it. So, a couple of stories. One was a guy who decided that he was going to pay somebody he didn't like $50 or £50, I think it was, every time he screwed up his trading plan. So he'd basically get £50 and go, here you go, I don't like you, but here's £50. Another one was a guy who ended up like completely, well, he was my mentor. His name's Andre Stewart. He's a great trader, and he got to the point where he was like, right, I've got a problem with money. He's got a problem with money. So he had a $20 note on the table when he was like, he was just at home by himself. He said he ended up swearing at the $20 note for like half an hour. He was crying. He was literally just livid at this $20 note because the money was the thing that was controlling him. And he basically had a breakdown about this $20 note. And then eventually afterwards, he decided to get rid of everything. He drove down the street. He was giving shoes and clothes to homeless people. And he got rid of all the material stuff and literally just completely had a revelation. And after that, things just went from from bad to great.
He
So
became a successful trader after having giving everything away.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah,
This is
yeah.
that's a nuts. That's a
It,
crazy story.
yeah, it was yeah, he was basically just, so connected to money that he needed to break away from it. And that was what he did. And he's
That makes
now
makes
a
a lot of sense.
phenomenal trader. I'm sure there's more that I can't think of any other top of my head that those two sort of come to spring to mind.
I know those are honestly great. Um, so having talked to all these traders, Cam, what would you say your personal philosophy is now towards trading? How do you view trading now, and is it any different from a year ago or a year before that when you first started the podcast?
Oh, look, it's from when I first started, I suppose what the main thing that's changed for me is the fact that anyone that's become successful in this has put in a lot of work, a lot of hours in front of the charts, looking at the charts, studying the charts, coming up with how they're going to trade and how they're going to make this market work for them, and or how they're going to make money out of this market. And look, that's what everyone else doesn't do. So for me, it was okay. Great, I know this now. How am I going to put more time in? And so where is that? So for me, it's where's the priority of getting in front of the charts, back testing, looking, analyzing, doing the journaling, all the stuff that doesn't give you a return, an immediate reward. That's the key to success, right? So it's doing all the stuff that's not going to give you immediate reward to eventually get to the point where something clicks, something happens, you get to that routine that you've now got a plan, it's working, you can be consistent, that you actually start making money from this game. So that was the biggest thing, is like, am I putting in enough effort in to compete with these guys who are at the top of the game? Even if you learn, strategy after strategy, it's the effort that you put in after you learn the strategy. It's not learning the strategy and just playing it out, because that's number one. And number two is the emotional side that comes with it as well. So you learn the strategy, then it's like, how easy is it going to be for you to apply what you've learned to this? Apply what you've learned in a live market, and that's where I sort of came across trading robots, and I learned how to build trading robots, and now teach people how to build trading robots through a course that I sell. So that for me has given me like almost sort of like a robotic way to put constraints on what I do. So I put constraints on, instead of having to sit there and look at every single tick, I've set up certain things on my trading terminal that I've built myself that will give me alerts that I can then go, okay, now I can go and do some actions. I do my analysis, go away, come back, do the actions. In some cases, I've just completely automated systems. But yeah, so for me, it's very much around that, putting in the work and then working on your emotional approach to the markets, which seems to be the biggest thing that everyone doesn't want to work on.
Okay, that's actually very profound, Cam. I really appreciate you for sharing that. That might be one of the most insightful things that we've heard during this entire call, which is it's not really about what the good traders are doing. It's about what the folks that aren't winning are not willing to do. That's kind of the differentiating factor. It's not about some secret strategy. It's really about doing the hard stuff that folks who are losing aren't willing to do, and put in that discipline. So I really appreciate you for sharing that. Now, I kind of want to ask you these last couple of questions. We're getting ready to wrap this up. It's actually been a
Yeah.
very interesting interview, Kim. But tell me, where do you see Trading Nut going, and where do you hope Trading Nut will go from here?
Well, look, I mean, I'm doing this full time. It was started off as a part-time sort of hobby. I've done over 200 episodes now, so I sort of see Trading Nut becoming a free educational tool for any trader out there. And look, it's funny because you see a lot of people come across the site, and I've got to be honest here. People are lazy. They are lazy. They will not invest the time in going through and listening to all the episodes, which I recommend doing. I put a survey out there a while ago. How many episodes who's listened to every episode of the podcast? Like 1%. But there's golden nuggets in every single episode. And with the YouTube channel as well, there's I started that up I started up like maybe 2-3 years into the podcast, and then I've really sort of started honing in on the YouTube channel and all the things that I thought were going to be impossible, like getting traders to reveal strategies they're using, has all turned out to be completely possible. So, we'll get guys on after the show, get them on the YouTube channel, walk through a price chart, 5-10 minutes. You're going to learn how they approach the markets, and you're going to pick up at least 1 to maybe even 10 things in some of these videos. So, but the thing is, people are lazy. They won't go and invest the time, or they'll speed through the video, or they give up halfway through, and they'll miss all the golden nuggets. So it's there, guys. And look, a prime example, released an episode this week. The guy is a phenomenal trader. His Telegram is like through the roof in terms of the accuracy of the signals that he was giving out for free. Yet got him on the YouTube channel, put up a video. I mean, the interview was great. Got him on the YouTube channel, put up the video where he was walking through an approach I've never, ever seen before. And it's, literally never seen it before. Even the way he was drawing his fib levels, never seen before. And he got absolutely slated on YouTube, slated. And then he's even telling me today that people have now gone to his Telegram channel, checked it out, and they're now apologizing for slagging him off in the comments. So it just goes to show, I was saying, see, people are emailing me going, man, this guy's going to ruin your brand. And I'm like, this guy's an amazing trader. It just goes to show the perspective, right? The perspective of people completely distorts their view of reality. So guys, it's all about bias. You've got to be unbiased. You've got to be unbiased on everything to make this happen, to move forward, to find success. That's like the saying goes, would you rather be right or be rich?
Oh, okay. We're going to have to go ahead and say that again. Would you rather be right or be rich, he just said.
Yeah, would you rather be right or be rich? And look, that's what that's what I posted on my chat just yesterday, because it was like, this is what they're like, no, he's drawing the fibs wrong. What they don't know is I've interviewed 2 people after this guy who draw the fibs exactly the same way. And they're both amazingly successful. So
it works.
Yeah. So don't be biased, guys. You got to get rid of that bias. And it's not just, in educating yourselves, but also in the market as well. So if you're in the market and you're biased in one direction or the other, then, it might trip you up.
All right, that's brilliant information. If you're listening at home, make sure that you guys are not getting caught up in the social media side of things. And then also keep in mind that if you're learning what everybody else is learning, is that what's actually working? If the majority of traders lose money trading and you're learning common knowledge, is that going to help you in the long term? Is that is that the proper knowledge? So the people that have unconventional strategies tend to be the ones pulling money out of the market. And that's what we should try to emulate as best as possible. So Cam, I appreciate that. One of the last questions I can ask, actually, you just popped up a question with what you just said. Based on the videos that you do after your podcast, the ones where people go through their strategies, are there any similarities off the top of your head that you can think of between the things that people see in their philosophy, things that you know to be true about those markets? Like everybody follows a specific rule, like the trend is your friend, or a specific breakout.
I think, you're right. I mean, there are commonalities. One is, momentum. So if you're in people are trading the trend, right? And they're looking for breaks and they're looking for retests of that trend in different ways. And that's essentially it. It's like we're trying to establish some sort of trend. We're looking for a break of that trend. We're looking for the retest, and we're looking for a place to get on the retest. That's essentially it.
That's great. It's very simple. It's keeping it simple is one of the best strategies. So Cam, one of the last questions, or if this is the last question that I'll ask before we wrap this podcast up. What should traders know, or what would you hope that traders would know after having watched this podcast?
One simple sentence: you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work to make it in this industry. If you're not willing to put in the work, possibly think about something else, because traders who are making, the money that they can, allows them to buy Lamborghinis and all that sort of stuff. These guys are putting in the work. And look, it doesn't need to be 10 years worth of work. If you just condense it down, I know guys that have put in the work over like 8 months, 12 months and got there. So putting in the work is the key.
Cam Hawkins, thank you for stopping by the Expert Trader Podcast. Chart Addicts, if you guys are interested in watching any of the Trader Nut videos, we're going to put a link to the YouTube channel below. Cam, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, look, it's been fantastic coming on the show. I've seen your work, and so great to be here. Great to share my story, which I haven't shared for a long